Welcome everyone. In this lesson we're going to see where many of our elementary form derivatives actually come from. And we're going to use a lot of the derivative rules we looked at so far: product rule, quotient rule, chain rule, and implicit differentiation. So we're going to be able to prove a lot of these elementary form derivatives. So let's just first kind of review over what those derivatives are. We have our 6 trig functions, so sine, cosine, tan, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Our 6 trig functions here. We have our three main inverse trig functions. Technically there's 3 more, but we primarily look at inverse sine, inverse cosine, and inverse tan. We have our exponential functions, e to the x, and then sort of a general exponential function, b raised to the power x, where b can be any number greater than 1, generally is what we look at. And then we have our log functions. So we have our natural log, which is log base e. We a lot of times also are interested in the natural log of absolute value x. And then we have our general log function, log base b. And we've kind of looked at these derivative formulas before. What we're going to do in this lesson is we're going to actually prove many of these formula. So our trig functions here, our trig derivatives, we're actually going to prove, or we'll see the strategy for how we could prove the derivative of tangent, derivative of cosecant, derivative of secant, and derivative of cotan using what we know about sine and cosine. So we'll be able to use product rule or quotient rule or chain rule to help us with these 4 derivatives. And then actually same thing for the general exponential function here, b raised to the power x. We'll be able to prove that using what we know about e to the x, and we're going to use chain rule for. And then our inverse functions, so our inverse trig functions and our log functions, which are technically inverse exponential functions. If you want to get all technical here, inverse exponentials. We're going to be able to prove all of these using implicit differentiation. So we get to make use of all these different techniques we've learned, all these differentiation techniques. Ooh, what's going on there? All right, so yeah, implicit differentiation. That's what we're going to use for those inverse functions. So really the 3 kind of building block derivatives here are sine and cosine and e to the x. And we'll be able to prove basically everything else off of those 3 main derivatives here. All right, so we're first going to look at the trig functions. So we'll see you there.